Amid the sodden chaos of a Normandy bocage in late June 1944, rain lashed the hedgerows while distant thunder of guns mixed with the metallic groan of straining metal. Out of the mist lumbered the TOG-2, Britain's colossal 80-ton monster, its elongated rhomboid hull 33 feet 2 inches long and 10 feet 3 inches wide, slicing through deep mud that had already claimed 3 M4 Shermans nearby. Tracks 24 inches wide distributed the 179,200-pound weight so effectively that ground pressure stayed at merely 12 pounds per square inch, allowing the machine to bridge a waterlogged crater 14 feet across without hesitation or bogging. Inside the dimly lit fighting compartment, lit by faint red bulbs, the six-man crew, commander, gunner, loader, driver, co-driver, machine gunner, radio operator, felt the vibration of the 1,708 cubic-inch Paxman Ricardo 12-cylinder diesel engine delivering 600 horsepower at 2,000 revolutions per minute through a complex hydraulic transmission with 6 forward and 2 reverse gears. The driver, peering through a narrow visor slit, eased forward throttle levers while the gunner traversed the turret, its 4.5-inch thick cast frontal armor glinting wetly toward a hedgerow 350 yards away where muzzle flashes betrayed a hidden German 75mm PaK-40 anti-tank gun. The first enemy round struck square on the glacis plate with a deafening clang, ricocheting skyward in a shower of sparks without penetrating the 3-inch thick lower hull section. Undeterred, the British gunner aligned his number 4 6x magnification periscope on a Panzer 5 Panther, cautiously nosing from cover 200 yards beyond, and fired a single armor-piercing discarding sabot round at 3,200 feet per second muzzle velocity. The projectile slammed through the Panther's sloped glacis, igniting the ammunition store in a cataclysmic orange bloom that silhouetted ruined trees against the gray sky. German infantry, dug in expecting their Panzers to sweep the field as doctrine promised, stared in disbelief as this seeming relic from another war pressed relentlessly onward, its coaxial 303-inch Browning chattering to suppress riflemen who fled their positions. The sight overturned every tactical assumption that heavy tanks must inevitably mire, overheat, or fall to flanking fire in the era of rapid maneuver. Allied observers in a forward command post lowered their field glasses in stunned silence, grasping that the ridiculed old gang experiment might finally provide the unbreakable anvil infantry desperately needed against German counter-thrusts. It could have been like this if the TOG-2 had taken part in combat. Throughout the 1930s and early 1940s, armored doctrine worldwide converged on speed, reliability, and mass production rather than sheer bulk and protection. German planners crafted blitzkrieg around balanced medium tanks like Panzerkampfwagen 3 and Panzerkampfwagen 4, capable of sustained 25 miles per hour advances coordinated with dive bombers and motorized infantry, viewing anything exceeding 50 tons as a logistical death sentence, consuming excessive fuel, often 1 gallon per mile, and vulnerable to air attack or anti-tank guns positioned on flanks. The Soviet Union, after catastrophic early losses, emphasized the T-34 medium, with its revolutionary sloped armor and Christie suspension for 30 miles per hour dashes across steppe, scorning super heavies as resource drains unfit for vast fronts. The United States prioritized the M4 Sherman series for its ease of transport across oceans, mechanical simplicity, and ability to flood battlefields with thousands of units, accepting thinner armor in exchange for logistical supremacy. Britain itself, scarred by the impassable mud of Passchendaele and Ypres, initially built slow infantry tanks like Matilda II with thick but limited armor, then shifted toward faster cruiser designs, convinced that monsters would strangle supply lines stretching hundreds of miles and succumb to concentrated fire. Previous heavy tanks suffered chronically. The French Char B-1 and Soviet KV-1 frequently stalled with engines producing under 300 horsepower, overheating to 110 degrees Fahrenheit in summer, or freezing linkages below 32 degrees Fahrenheit in winter, leaving crews stranded amid artillery barrages that exploited immobility, fostering terror, indecision when sighting enemy armor, and breakdowns in communication as primitive radios failed, leading to ambushes and needless losses that eroded confidence in armored warfare itself. The TOG-2 originated in the desperate months of 1939 when the British Ministry of Supply quietly assembled the Special Vehicle Development Committee, nicknamed the Old Gang for its members. Veteran designers Sir Albert Stern, engineer Harry Ricardo, and industrialist William Foster, who had shaped the original rhomboidal tanks of 1916. Facing acute shortages of alloy steel, precision tools disrupted by blackout restrictions, and factories vulnerable to nightly bombing, they pursued an audacious philosophy. Revive elongated trench-crossing geometry to defeat obstacles 16 feet wide and 5 feet high while maintaining acceptable ground pressure through sheer length rather than width. The resulting hull adopted the classic rhomboid profile with extended track runs, frontal armor 4.5 inches thick on the turret face and upper glacis, 3 inches on hull sides and rear, 2.5 inches on the roof against strafing. The main weapon was the powerful ordnance quick-firing 17-pounder gun with a 13-foot barrel, firing armor-piercing discarding sabot rounds capable of penetrating 4 inches of armor at 1,000 yards, or high-explosive shells against fortifications, supplemented by a coaxial 303-inch Browning machine gun and a bow-mounted variant. Ammunition stowage accommodated 64 main rounds plus several thousand small arms cartridges. The crew of 6 operated in a relatively spacious but still claustrophobic interior with intercom for internal voice communication and basic ventilation that struggled in extreme heat. Vision derived from multiple No-4 periscopes offering 6 times magnification and wide-angle fixed episcope blocks. The suspension comprised unsprung bogie wheels, 24 per side, linked by heavy exposed track pins for field maintenance despite vulnerability to mud packing. Power came from the reliable Paxman Ricardo diesel of 1,708 cubic inches displacement, cooled by large radiators, and fed from 120-gallon tanks for roughly 50 miles operational range at 8 miles per hour cross-country or 14 miles per hour on metalled roads. The hydraulic transmission incorporated innovative electric final drives to manage torque demands on steep inclines up to 25 degrees. Every choice involved painful trade-offs. The 33-foot length complicated railway loading requiring partial disassembly. The weight-taxed bridges rated for 40 tons. Yet the design achieved what contemporaries could not: unflinching progress through saturated ground where lighter vehicles failed. Production remained limited to a single prototype assembled at William Foster and Company in Lincoln under constant threat of air raids that shattered machine shops and delayed steel deliveries from Sheffield. Workers improvised with agricultural welding jigs, women rapidly trained in riveting took night shifts, and critical castings traveled by canal barge when rail lines were cratered. Subcontractors like Vickers Armstrong supplied the complex turret via nighttime lorry convoys navigating blackout roads. Despite heroic effort, wartime priorities shifted decisively toward faster, lighter Centurion prototypes, leaving TOG-2 as a solitary proof of concept. In hypothetical yet plausible combat scenarios, the machine would have shown brightest in static attritional fights. During North African trials, it might have traversed soft dunes where M3 Grant tanks bogged, shrugging off 88mm shells at 1,500 yards before silencing Italian artillery positions. In the mountainous Italian theater, its length would have allowed ambushes in narrow defiles against Panzerkampfwagen 4 columns, armor withstanding close machine gun fire while the 17-pounder punched through at 500 yards. In Normandy bocage, it could bulldoze thick hedgerows, providing mobile strongpoints for infantry against Sturmgeschütz 3 assaults. Enemy reactions would range from disbelief to tactical re-evaluation. German Panzer leaders, accustomed to outmaneuvering foes, found their vaunted mobility neutralized when Tigers themselves bogged in pursuit of the unflinching British giant. Against contemporaries, the TOG-2 traded speed for endurance. The Panther's sloped 5-inch effective frontal armor and long 75mm gun offered superior penetration and 25 miles per hour mobility, but suffered transmission failures. The Tiger Ausführung E with its 88mm cannon pierced 6 inches at range, yet jammed in frost due to interleaved wheels. The Churchill infantry tank matched weight with better hill performance but shorter trench span. The M4 Sherman prevailed through sheer numbers and parts availability despite thinner armor. Field modifications might have included spaced side skirts to defeat Panzerfaust warheads, additional track links welded for extra glacis protection, or trials mounting a 28-pounder for even greater punch. Post-war, the lone TOG-2 prototype never entered series production or export, Yet its survival at the Tank Museum in Bovington allows engineers and historians to study a bold answer to an enduring question. Could raw durability and terrain mastery outweigh the cult of speed? In an age obsessed with velocity, it demonstrated that certain battlefields, muddy, cratered, obstacle-strewn, reward the immovable more than the swift, a lesson in engineering humility that still resonates when modern designs grapple with the same eternal compromises between protection, mobility, and logistics. Its quiet legacy endures as proof that sometimes the path forward circles back through forgotten ideas.